أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المذمومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في محكم كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنحون عن المنكر صدق الله العلي العظيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al Imran, verse 110, He says that you have been created the best of nations. You enjoin people to good and you forbid them from evil. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is known as Al-Bar, the source of all goodness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides us continuous blessings and sustenance, even if we do not remember Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembers us. Al-Bar comes from the Arabic root word bir, which means the doing of something benevolently good. When we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Bar, we are referring to His attributes and His qualities of how He is so charitable and merciful, and He gives so many bounties to His servants. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is known as the one who provides, and He is Al-Razzaq, the provider. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is known as Al-Ra'uf, the one who provides goodness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is known as Al-Ra'uf because He provides goodness. He provides blessings to His servants by keeping them away from evil, and He provides goodness even to the disbelievers, the sinners, the one who commits sins, by forgiving their sins. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is Rabbil Alameen. It is because of His character trait of Ar-Ra'uf, the compassionate one, and it is because of His mercy and benevolence that we have this blessed opportunity to sit and mourn and acknowledge the tragedy of Karbala that befell upon Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his family. In the last lecture, I discussed the importance of Salah. And in that lecture, I discussed how we can strengthen our relationship with Salah. As promised, today I would like to discuss a very important topic, especially in the lens of Karbala. And this is a very important lesson that we need to begin to re-implement in our lives. And that is none other than Amr bil and anil Munkar. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, his entire reason to go to the battlefield of Karbala, the sole reason of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to take his women and his children and everyone to Karbala was because of Amr bil and anil Munkar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it wajib on every single Muslim man and woman to do Amr bil ma'ruf, to promote other people to goodness, and do nahi anil Munkar, to keep people away from evilness. And nahi anil Munkar becomes wajib when you have a tyrant and when you have an oppressor who is hurting and oppressing the people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that moment gives us the responsibility that we should go against that tyrant. No matter how powerful the tyrant is, no matter how much wealth or strength the tyrant has, no matter who the tyrant is, whether they are Muslim or non-Muslim, if they're a relative or not a relative, we should still go against that oppressor. That is a very heavy responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put on our shoulders. And we can see that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he shouldered that responsibility. If we look in the statement that he provided to the people of Medina, when he was rising and leaving from Medina, he told in public to the people that, "Oh, people of Medina, my purpose is not oppression or injustice. I do not wish to rise to cause oppression and injustice in the world. My purpose of rising, the reason I am creating a movement, an uprising, is because I want to preserve the ummah of my grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam." Imam Hussein then said that the purpose of preserving the ummah is Amr bil wa nahi anil Munkar. He said the entire reason of the tragedy of Karbala was because he wanted to establish goodness and ward off the evil. That is the reason he left the city of his grandfather, Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara. It shows that if we are the follower of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we should at least recognize the significance and the importance of bringing people to good and forbidding them from evil. Our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, has narrated and described how important these two obligations are for the foundation of our deeds. He says that nahi anil Munkar and Amr bil ma'ruf, enjoining people to good and forbidding them from evil, are two great obligations that when they are established, the rest of the obligations are founded. The rest of the obligations, they are based on Amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil Munkar. The Imam here, he tells us how important Amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil Munkar is. That in order for you to have patience, in order for you to develop qualities, you must first bring people to the good and keep them away from the evil. And we can see that that was the mission of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But nowadays, Amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil Munkar, they are not easy. Particularly nahi anil Munkar has become challenging day by day. If we look at how we implement Amr bil ma'ruf in our life, in our lives, we teach Amr bil ma'ruf even to the youngest of kids. Amr bil ma'ruf is not the difficult obligation. The one that is difficult is nahi anil Munkar. And you may ask why. Amr bil ma'ruf, even the smallest good deeds are connected to Amr bil ma'ruf. If you teach a child at a madrasa or Sunday school, that is Amr bil. If you tell your child and you teach them how to read the Quran, that is Amr bil. If you wake up and you tell others and you promote the importance of praying salah at awwal waqt, that is Amr bil. It is easy to tell to people, let's go to a majalis. We will do the dhikr of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But it is difficult. It is challenging to tell to someone that why are you doing that action? Why are you committing this deed? You should stop that right now. You should not be doing that right now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be pleased when you do that. It is difficult to criticize people and pick out their flaws. The first reason why it is difficult to do nahi anil Munkar is because nahi anil Munkar and Amr bil Ma'ruf have been blended in society. Nowadays, good and evil have become one blended gray area. There is no fine line between what is considered goodness and what is considered evilness. People, they consider good evil and evil good. And now people, they often get confused, especially Muslims. There are new trends coming out, new concepts are coming out. Technology is being advanced. It is much different and more improved and advanced than the era of the Prophet. So there are much more newer issues, especially in the Western world. And us Muslims, we often find ourselves in doubt and confusion. So the first step to establish nahi anil Munkar and solve this problem is to gain ilm of what is good and what is evil. Understand what haqq is. In the Battle of Jamal, I would like to give you a quick example. In the Battle of Jamal, a man approached Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. This man, he had a very complex, worrisome face, and he was really concerned. So he says to Amir al-Mu'mineen that, Ya Ali, whose side do I go? Whose side do I pick and choose? On one side, there is you, Ya Ali, the cousin and the brother-in-law, the son-in-law of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And on this side, there are companions of the Prophet who would stay with him day and night. But on the other side, there is the wife of the Prophet. There is Talha, the father-in-law of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. There is Zubayr, the cousin of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, I come to you, I ask you that which one of you is haqq? Which one of you is truth? Which amongst you is on the right path? Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he says to the man, do not look at the people. He says, do not be concerned of the people. First, you must know what haqq is. Have ilm al-haqq, have the knowledge of truth. Understand what haqq is, understand what truth is. He does not say understand who are the people of truth. He says understand what truth is. Because once you understand what truth is, you will automatically find the people who follow the truth. He says, do not follow and run after these personalities. And that's the advice he gives to this man. And we have to apply the same advice to ourselves. When we are confused, we do not know what is the difference between haqq and batil. we have lost the ability to discern between haqq and batil. We have lost that unique ability that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us, that fitrah. Then we must seek knowledge. We must know what haqq is, learn and understand how to recognize haqq, so that you know when you are telling someone in your performance of Amr bil and anil Munkar, you know what you are saying. You have yaqeen, you have certainty that you are right. Another problem of anil Munkar, and the reason it is even more challenging, is because we are societal pleasers. Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he gave advice to that man, he says, do not run after these personalities. He says, do not look at them, do not pay heed to them. Know yourself, understand what haqq is, figure it out yourself, and then look at the people. We as a community, as a society, have become people pleasers. We run after people and their desires and their thoughts. And whenever we say something or do something, everyone always has this one question: what will society think of us? What will people think of us? What will so and so think of us? What will my relative think of us? We make our relatives, our society, our community members revolve the central focus. We make them the focus of our actions, when it should be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whenever we do something, we say something, we think a lot, and there's no harm in thinking before you speak. But if you think because you have the fear of society, then that means you do not fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you do not trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a problem of nahi anil munkar is we please people. Because we are so scared of what people are going to say, we do not criticize them. Nobody wants to hear the flaws about themselves. Nobody wants to hear criticism about themselves. No one wants to hear what mistakes and errors they make, what's good and bad. They don't want to hear feedback. It is not natural for someone to hear the not good so part of themselves. But we have to get used to this. We need to accept constructive criticism. There is another problem in our society that, let's say today, you see some child doing something wrong and you want to discipline them. The parent is not around. You want to discipline this child. He's doing something wrong, she is doing something wrong, or they're straying away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It might be something very minute, or it might be something big. So you start disciplining the child, you say something, you tell them and make them understand that what they are doing is wrong. What do you think happens to the child? What do you think happens next? Many times when someone tries to discipline someone else's child, the parent, who is the authoritative figure, the one who is supposed to discipline the child, they get all defensive and offended, and they start saying, how dare you discipline my child? What status, what position do you hold that you think that you can discipline my child? Who do you think that you are, that you want to point fingers at my child? We become all defensive. We cannot accept the constructive criticism of others. And because of that, we are slowly regressing and we are moving away from Amr bil and anil Munkar. We are becoming so reserved. We might see someone doing something wrong, and it might be oppressive, it might be unjust, but because it is accepted in society, because you don't want to hurt their feelings, you do not say anything. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not command that in the Holy Quran. What does He say in the Quran? The surah I recited was Surah Al Imran in the beginning, verse 110. He says that I have created you the best of creations. I've created you the best of creations, and amongst the best of creation, you are the best nation. Who are the best nation? The one who does Amr bil and anil Munkar. When we do not do Amr bil and anil Munkar, we are slowly going away from the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the eyes of Allah, we become the worst of nations. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he saw this. He saw that his ummah, that his grandfather Rasulullah worked so hard for, that his father Imam Ali and his brother Hassan worked so hard for. They put all their efforts into this ummah, and they are getting destroyed by corruption. The Imam wanted to bring them back. How does he bring them back? Through Amr bil and anil Munkar. He wants to bring them and make them the best of nations once again. How does he do this? When Walid ibn Utbah, the governor of Medina, he asks for the allegiance of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, as a response, he says, Mithli la, ya, Mithli la, the one that is someone like me. People who are like me, Hussein, will not give bay'ah to people like Yazid. He says those who are like me will not give allegiance to people who are like Yazid. Does Imam Hussein alayhi salam say that mithli la bay'a mithla? That's what he says. He says that people like me do not give bay'ah to Yazid. But does he say that Hussein ibn Ali la bay'a Yazid ibn Muawiyah? He does not say that Hussein does not give bay'ah to Yazid. He says someone like Hussein, someone who is considered the part of my ummah, someone who is considered a follower of Hussein, someone who is part of the ummah of the prophets, would not give allegiance to someone like Yazid, someone who supports Yazid. Why does he say this? He says that for you and I, that whenever you see oppression, you see dhulm, you see injustice, if you are the follower of Hussein, you will stand up. If you are like someone like Hussein, and you see someone like Yazid as a tyrant, as an oppressor, you will stand up against them. That is what the Imam alayhi salam says. He gives this as a piece of advice, an ongoing lesson for us. Imam alayhi salam does not want us to quietly observe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will see 3 types of people on the day of Ashura. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes 2 types of people amongst these 3. Who are these people? The first is the one who are with Hussein. The second is the one who are with Yazid. They support oppression. And the third are the ones who are indifferent. They do not have an opinion whether to support Yazid or Hussein. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes those who directly plotted to kill Imam Hussein alayhi salam, as well as those who did not have an opinion. Why? Because they are equally guilty, since they did not do Amr bil wa anil Munkar. They did not rise against the oppression of those who supported Yazid, so they deserve equivalent punishment. This is why we say in Ziyarat al-Arba'in, what do we say? وَلَعْنَ اللَّهُ سَمِيَتْ بِذَلِكَ فَرَضِيَتْ بِهِ. That may Allah curse those that when the news of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's martyrdom reached their ears, when they became aware that the grandson of Rasulullah was killed, they were content. They were pleased. They did not directly kill Imam Hussein, but the fact that they supported Yazid, they did not say anything to Yazid, they were insensitive, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes them and curses them as well. And this is not the first time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does this. He does this also to the people of Thamud in Prophet Salih alayhi salam's time. When the people killed the she-camel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not only punish those who killed the she-camel, but He also punished those who did not say anything against those who started collecting the weapons for the she-camel. He punished those because they were equally guilty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when you have a voice, you have a responsibility to use that voice against oppression. We have become insensitive. We have become numb to the oppression around the world. Day after day, you see in the news that certain number of people died this day. You see that certain number of hostages were taken this day. Certain number of bombs were bombed in a certain strip. Day after day, you see and you hear all of these news, but you do not say anything against them because evil has become so prominent and apparent in our communities that it has become normalized. Wars have become normalized. Fights and civil wars between Muslim countries have become normalized. But the Imam alayhi salam does not want this to be normalized. He fights for even the tiniest amounts of oppression. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to use this voice that we have, even if it is a small action, a donation to a charity that supports the oppressed, even if it is wearing some sort of symbol that shows that you support those who are oppressed. You wear some type of clothing, some representation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees that intention. We see so many wars. We see so many fights. We see so much injustice and dhulm in the world. And when we see this, we remember our 12th Imam. And we pray to him, we say, Al-Ajal, 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 O Imam, come to us, come quickly, hasten your reappearance. But the Imam does not come. And the reason is not because there isn't enough oppression in this world. There's more than enough to last us for a lifetime. And it is not because there's not enough deaths in the world. After the amounts of plagues and viruses and wars that we have, I am certain, I swear by Allah, there must be enough for the Imam to reappear. The reason he does not reappear is because we are not that type of best of nation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that those are the best of nations who does Amr bil anil Munkar, but we do not do that. We do not stand up against the oppressed. And that is why the Imam does not reappear. The Imam needs a solidified government. He needs companions like the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who recognized that they were under the reign of oppressors and they went against the tyrants of their time. The same way, whenever we see Palestine, we see Syria, we see Yemen, we see anyone, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim, they are being oppressed, we must help them out. We must, in our best ability and capability, help them out. And inshallah, the Imam will reappear and establish justice. I would like to end with a narration, a hadith from our first Imam, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And I want all of us, including myself, it's a very beautiful hadith, for us to reflect on this hadith and really think about what we can do for the sake of the Imam, what we can do for those who are oppressed. Imam Ali alayhi salam says that one who refrains from forbidding evil, one who avoids doing anil Munkar, with the heart, with the hand, or with the mouth, is equivalent to those who are living but they are dead. Imam Ali alayhi salam says that if you do not even take the slightest action, in your heart you don't feel sad for the oppressed, you don't use your hands for the ones who are oppressed and facing injustice, you do not use this mouth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses you with for the sake of anil Munkar, it is as if you are dead amongst the living. Everyone around you who supports the oppressed and goes against the tyrants are living, but you are considered dead in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, for our next session, we will go over the importance of hijab. And I would like to also mention in that session, inshallah, how hijab is a sign of not oppression, but freedom. Because there are many people that are outside of our religion and they see hijab and they think of terrorism and oppression, but hijab is the opposite of that, and it provides people with freedom. It provides women with dignity and respect. Inshallah, I will cover the value of hijab in my next session. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help those who are oppressed in the world, including in the Gaza Strip, in Palestine, in Parachinar, in Yemen, in Syria, and all other parts in the world where there's oppression and injustice, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lift this veil from our eyes, and may we help those who are oppressed in the best abilities and way that we can, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us become the Ansar, the helpers of the 12th Imam, like the helpers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the du'as of those who wish to go on ziyarah, visit the shrines of the 14 ma'sumeen. They would like to go to Umrah or Hajj or even other ziyarat that are around the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept their du'as. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasten the reappearance of the 12th Imam and ensure his safety, inshallah. May we all become a part of the Imam's army, the army of the 313, inshallah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.